on this EP. I've had a chance to sit down and listen to it, and it's absolutely amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's been quite fun to work on, and a lot of hard work went into it. So it's good to see that people are enjoying the album.
So tell us a little bit about what you guys were kind of hoping to achieve with this, because you came off an EP that was so well received. What were your hopes to try and achieve with this album?
Compared to the previous EP, that's when we kind of wanted to do something completely different and kind of like mark ourselves nationally, kind of, and like, because we changed the vocalist going into that album, so we wanted to do like something completely different. But then after we kind of blew our steam on that, we wanted to kind of want to kind of become even more artistic, like we've been used to do before. And like include symphonic elements and stuff like that, and be more diverse in our sound and not just hammer through with an HM2 pedal.
Cool. So
that was
go ahead.
So that was what we were going for. We don't want to be labeled as just death metal, you know. We want to kind of be more diverse, but still kind of keep death metal in the as a foundation for what we do.
Knowing that you wanted to do things like bring in a more symphonic sound, did that change the way that you guys went about writing the tracks for this album?
Not really for this album. Because we only decided with the symphonic elements like when we were in the studio. I had been fiddling around with it by myself for a bit, just because I needed something to showcase to the other guys, to kind of convince them to say yes to the idea of using symphonic elements, just to like show that yes, I'm capable of writing symphonic elements, so we can use that.
Awesome. And as you mentioned as well, you've got a change of lineup as well. Tell us a little bit about how that changed things for you as well.
Well, we had a vocalist and guitarist. He is actually back now as a bass player. But anyway, back in 2018, right after we had released an album called Path of Trees with Art of Deception, he decided that he needed to focus on himself and his solo project. And then we decided also, because a vocalist change is probably the most dramatic thing you can do to a band. So we decided to like mark the change with a name change as well. So we decided to short it down to just Deception, and then we hired a good friend of mine called Hansi to play guitar with us, and then I took over the vocals. So and that has been quite well received as well. And the good thing now is that Marius, our bass player, who was our lead singer before, he has his own solo project to get his like creative output on guitar and vocals there, so there won't be any like clashing.
Yeah, it sounds like a big challenge. Did you find it a challenge stepping into the role of vocalist, or was that something that you felt comfortable doing from the start?
It's something I've always wanted since I was a kid, since I started playing guitar, mainly because my biggest hero as a kid was James Hetfield.
Yep.
So I wanted to, I really wanted to do it for a long just to step up and be like frontman. But I've always also been really into like solo guitar and stuff, so I've always been perceived as the lead guitarist kind of thing, not as the vocalist, even though I've been doing some backing vocals for Art of Deception as well. But it took some practice to get into it. Before we recorded Epidemic, that was like what was it? Like a month or two of practicing before we did that. But when we recorded the Mire, I've been doing it for a couple of years, I think. So hopefully the vocals sound a lot better and will sound a lot better in the future albums. But like, it was kind of difficult at first on the live gigs, because I've always been used to like running around and stuff. But now I'm kind of more like grounded in the middle, because there's a lot of fucking singing on this record.
You mentioned also earlier about the idea for bringing in the symphonic side came about while you were in the studio, but it had been something that you'd been working on with the writing for a little while. How did the rest of the band feel when you first suggested about bringing in that symphonic side, especially considering that would mean a lot more work in the studio with an orchestra and things like that?
I had been suggesting it for a while, and they've always been like, okay, if we can do it if it sounds good, but if we don't get it to sound good, we're not going to use it, So we wrote the songs so that they could be able to stand their ground without symphonic orchestra as well. But I've been writing for a couple of albums. I've been writing some intros and some interludes. We're using like symphonic elements, so they could probably see what I can do, but I guess that they think it wasn't good enough, for like the entire album having symphonic elements. So I decided to like just write some symphonic parts for the album here and there, and just like show what I'm capable of. And when we were in the studio, I just bounced the orchestra tracks into the recording session, and we listened to it, and we were all like, okay, we're gonna go over to using symphonic elements. But the hard part with symphonic stuff and playing with tracks is that you have to have a click track to play to. So there was a kind of thing that were holding us back as well earlier was the live setting of it, and that it costs a lot of money to kind of invest in a rig that could work for us. So for a long time we had just a drummer playing to click track, but right a couple of months ago we actually finished a complete in-ear rig so that everyone has click and or a click track to play to, and we control our own mix buses, so you can have the kind of listening experience as you want with the click track and some orchestra and the other guys. So
awesome. It sounds amazing. Like, that's one of the things that hit me when I was listening to the album, was just what that brings to the music, but also because of COVID quarantines and lockdowns and things like that, did that make it harder to get an orchestra and a choir together for this as well?
Well, it's only plugins. We didn't get a full orchestra for for the recording session. We did not do that. There's a lot of like good plugins that you can use to like create symphonic elements with, or create an orchestra with using a MIDI keyboard. So what we used was something called East West. They have a subscription payment that's called Composer Cloud with strings and brass and everything.
How about for yourselves though? Did that kind of cause problems for you, like even getting into the studio? Because I know here in Australia, for most of the time, studios were closed, so bands were having to do a lot more work at home. Was that something that you guys found as well, that the studios were closed for part of the time?
Not really. We were when the shit went down. We had already planned that we were going into the studio in March around the 10th, and that was like 2 days before they closed. But also we know the guys in the studio, so we asked, hey, can we just, if we have precautions, can we just go record our album? Because everybody was staying at home away from their work anyway, and we were like, I don't know what it's called in English, but we were all washing our hands and keeping our distance as good as we could when we were recording. But yeah, and we didn't use a producer or anyone else to like record for us, to kind of keep the amount of people to a minimal. And for most of the time, there was just me and the other guitarist in the studio tracking.
Awesome. And what's it like there now for you guys? Because I'm talking to you right now from lockdown. This is I think it's our 225th day in lockdown or something. What is it like there for you guys now? Like, are you able to get out and do shows now?
For now, it's pretty much open again, but we still have seated concerts and stuff. But we've come quite a long way with the vaccination and stuff. So everything is opening up, and hopefully in October, I think they have planned that everything should be back to normal.
That's awesome.
But that's great. And there was something I was about to say. Yeah, we've been doing a couple of shows during COVID, like in the open kind of periods. But yeah, there hasn't been a lot of like shows internationally.
Yeah. No, we can't wait until things open back up here as well. I also wanted to talk to you about the guests that you had on this album, because you've got some amazing guests on this album. People like Bolt, Attila. Tell us a little bit about those guests that you had came in and how you knew which people you wanted to have work on each track.
So the main thing was that let's start with the first one on the album. That was Scar. He has been mixing our albums, or he had mixed an album for us before, and he was going to do this again. So with him, he's just a really good musician, a perfectionist, and I wanted to have him on. He usually does like YouTube, and he also sings in a band called Equilibrium. So I really wanted to have him on because he's a good friend of mine. And going on to Attila, fucking great guy. I met him at a festival here in Norway, and we have been keeping in touch ever since, and been writing riffs and stuff. And I've always liked his playing, and I've always liked his playing. So when I asked him, he said, "Yeah, sure." And what we received was a pretty like unique solo. I didn't expect that. So in the beginning, he actually thought that we didn't like it, but because it was not what we expected. But we really liked the solo he did. And Temu from Winter Sun, I've been having lessons from him for 6 years now, like on and off. And he's one of the most accomplished guitarists out there, speaking technically, or like in playing in general. And he's also one of my favorite guitar players. So that was no brainer to like send the request for him to do the solo. And I'm really happy he said yes, because that's probably one of my favorite solos ever. And then we got Bolt. We've been touring a lot with the Blood Red Throne, both in Norway and England and Denmark. So we also wanted to have him on because he's a good friend, and we like what he does. So, and that's probably the general idea of who we have on our albums. Who do we like to listen to?
Yeah, you said about that solo being amazing, and it is absolutely amazing. And I know we are running out of time very quickly, and we're about to play Grasp of Lilith on our show right now. So before we do, what would you like to say to everybody out there before they take a listen to this amazing track, and also before they go out and grab themselves a copy of the Mire as well?
Make sure to check out our social media, because that's where we are most active at the moment. And eventually, when the world opens up, come hang out at the show, grab a beer with us, and just have fun.
Awesome.